All right, hello guys, welcome back. Today I just wanted to do a little bit of a follow-up to my last 5080 video. As you know, in my last 5080 video, I really covered strictly, what my experience has been, what I feel like I've gotten out of this card, and the shortcomings it has. And I still acknowledge, right, that, it's a powerful card, and it's not a weak card. Some may argue it is for its price point, and I would probably say it is. For the generation it's a part of, it certainly is. But yeah, that's one of the considerations. But I just wanted to do a little bit of a follow-up to discuss some of the nuance and to explain a little bit on why I got this card when I did know that a lot of these issues were going to be present. So this is going to be a little bit of a story time at first, just discussing why I ended up with this card, and then we're going to move into a little bit of, what the state of the card is now and why someone would want it, and we're going to talk about some of that. So yeah, first off, I had a 4070 Ti, right, before I had the 5080, and my brother at that time was building a PC. He got the money together, and he was beginning to work on a PC, and he was trying to figure out what GPU he wanted to get. And me, having the, tech addiction I have, I was like, you know what, I don't like 12 gigs. I do want to move into 4K here soon, probably sooner than later. Hopefully I have enough money by Black Friday, but we'll see how that works out. But yeah, he wanted a GPU. I had this GPU, the 4070 Ti, and I was like, okay, well, the 50 series is coming out. We watched the 50 series announcement together, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to get a 5070 Ti. That's what I'm going to buy. I decided at that point I'm getting a 5070 Ti. I will sell my card to my brother, and I'll have a nice, cheap upgrade to a 5070 Ti, and it'll be great. So in the interim, however, I had bought a 5700 XT, and I was using that in my main system. And it worked very well. I mean, it did what I needed to. It functioned at 1440p in some games. I just didn't play a lot of the heavy stuff until after I got my 5080, but we'll get to that. I didn't want a 5080 at this time. So yeah, originally I wanted a 5070 Ti. However, right before the 50 series release, I'm not quite sure when exactly it began, we had that whole tariff situation, and I was, a lot of us were very scared. I'm not sure, maybe I was just silly, and everybody knew that it just wasn't going to happen, do anything really to the market, and it was going to be, normal from there. Yeah, I was really, really scared, actually, and I was stuck with this 5700 XT, and I was like, I need to make sure I get a card that can play these things, because Doom the Dark Ages was coming out, and I love Doom. And at that point, everybody was thinking that Doom the Dark Ages would only be supported by hardware RT cards. So I was thinking I wouldn't be able to play it. So what I did a little bit before the day came around, I was like, you know what? I'm not sure if the 5070 Ti is actually going to be at its price. I thought that the scalpers were going to buy it all. It was going to be horrible. I mean, that's always pretty much how it is. And then resell it for, the same price I'd be able to get a 5080 anyway. So I was like, there's literally no way I'm getting a 5070 Ti, but I'm going to try. But first, I'm going to try with the 5080, because then at least if I fail with the 5070 Ti, I have something, that's at least more worth the price I end up paying, right? So that was kind of my thought process. With the tariffs coming into place, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to end up with, a decent-ish card for the price. So I'm like, okay, I'll try for the 5080, and if I get the 5080, I get the 5080, and if I don't, I wait for the 5070 Ti and I buy it. And that's how I ended up with the 5080. So first off, the day of release, I was up pretty much all night with my brother trying to buy one. Everywhere was flooded, and there was a lot of crashing on, I believe, Walmart and Best Buy. But yeah, we tried for that. So let me scoot. I'm turning. Turn to the side so I can see you better. So I'm trying for the 5080, and I was on Newegg, a lot of Newegg, and the NVIDIA sites, Best Buy, Walmart. I got into the queue at Walmart multiple times. and was kicked out. Best Buy, similar story. You get into the queues and you wait there for a long time, and eventually you're kicked out. And you're like, wow, I just wasted all this time. And I had so many browser tabs open doing all this crud at once. And it was exciting. But in the end, I wasn't able to get one of the Founders Editions before they're pretty much all gone. There's restocks throughout this period of time. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to move on, go to Newegg. And I did a lot of Newegg searching. So yeah, on Newegg, I wasn't finding any listings for MSRP. Of course, there were some times where they would appear to be in stock. You'd add them to your cart, and then it just wouldn't, it would not be in stock, but it was listed in stock, and you tried, and it wasn't there. So it really sucked. Eventually, though, I was able to add a bundle deal, and it was a Zotac Solid OC. I guess this is technically their lower tier, but it's the OC version of it from Zotac. I think it's a really pretty card, although I think it's a bit divisive. It's got that like gold, that bronze gold. I really like that. I really like it, honestly. I love the look of my card, and it performs pretty good. But yeah, it was the Zotac Solid OC, and it came bundled with a power supply. It was like a $90 power supply or something that came with it. So if you want to think of it like this, I did get it for, like $12.10. That, and I had the money from my brother. So, it kind of like, it was less money directly out of my pocket, but I still paid $1,300. Me personally, I think, okay, I know some people might see it that way, right? Where you kind of traded something in, so you're not really paying that much. But I lost a graphics card that I really liked. I don't have the 4070 Ti. I paid that. That was a part of my payment. It wasn't just switching it out. I like collecting graphics cards. I have some old graphics cards. I like having graphics cards around for backups and stuff. And so I paid that. So that's why it was $12.10. Because I do use that power supply. So I'm glad I got it. It's in my secondary. So I did get use out of it, so that's nice. So if we want to think of it, $12.10. So that's really why I ended up with the card I got. And then the 5070 Ti's came about. I already had a 5080, and the 5080 is better. I already pretty much committed to the price and all that already. So it's like, you know what? This is fine. I'll keep it. So that's why I ended up with it. And 9 months later, I have my misgivings. I have my misgivings. But overall, if somebody said that they would give me $450 or $410 to swap it out, I probably would. $410 to change to a 5070 Ti? Man, I might do that. Get me a B580 for videos. And you never know. Yeah, there's that. But yeah, that's basically why I got it, why I have it, and why I have this experience of knowing the misgivings about VRAM, the issues with that, all these things. That's where it comes from. I have this because of that situation that I was a part of. And yeah, it does, it comes from a place of my tech addiction. I do always, feel that need to have the latest and greatest thing. And so I gotta work on that. Gotta work on that a little bit. But yeah, there's a little more to it. So I just wanted to share, just because I know some people under the 5080 video were a little like, what is this guy doing? Why the heck does he have a 5080? And I thought, yeah, that's a valid thing to bring up. So I thought I'd cover that just a little bit. Hopefully you understand a little bit where I'm coming from. I don't know what kind of experiences you guys have, but that's that. All right, now we're gonna talk about whether or not it's worth it for anybody to buy these now. So there is nuance to buying a 5080. The key one, the key one. I'm actually gonna go over some of the smaller ones. I mean, for me, it's kind of smaller. I know a couple people brought up the encoding and decoding. The encoding and decoding of the 50 series is better than the 40 series. I was reading by one of our commenters that there is actually double the encoders and decoders. It goes from 1 to 2, and they're higher quality. And if that matters to you, if you're a creator and that matters to you, then that's pretty big. That helps a lot. For me, I don't really do hardcore editing. I don't do hardcore things like that. I would love to, but that's going to be stuff I work on in the future. So maybe I'll benefit from having a 50 series card because of that. But the big one, the big argument I've seen for why the 5080 is actually a decent purchase is this. It may not be as powerful as the 4090. However, it provides a better experience than the 4090 does at, let's say, 4K 240 FPS. All right. Now we try to substantiate that. What does that look like? What do you mean when you say it's better than that? And here's what it means. Power-wise, it might be getting, 50 FPS when the 4090 is getting 57, 58. But yeah, the nuance there is the 5080 has multi-frame gen. So what we say when we have that 4090 and it has, frame gen that can bring you from, that 57 we were saying, right? 57 up to 114, right? You're getting 114 frames per second now. Well, okay, frames per second. Yeah, we'll take it, whatever. That's what I'm going to use. And if you don't like frame gen or anything, that's your prerogative. This is just an argument, right? For nuance. And then you have the 5080 with multi-frame gen that can do 4 times. Wow. We can take our 50 and go 4 times. And now we're getting 200 frames per second. 200. That's amazing, right, guys? So on a 240 hertz monitor, you're filling out more of that space. You're filling out more of that usable refresh rate than you could ever on a 4090 at those same settings. It looks smoother to your eye, and 57 to 50's input latency difference, while it might be somewhat noticeable for some people, isn't that bad. And so some people might be under the belief, and honestly, I can see this argument for some games, but might be of the opinion that it's worth it for you're filling out more of it, and it's only a tiny bit less responsive, but it's so much smoother that it's so worth it. And you know what? That nuance, I understand. That, yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. I agree to an extent. If you have a 4K 240 hertz monitor, it will fill it out more. And it will feel practically identical while also filling it out more and looking smoother. So there's nuance. There's nuance, right? But, sometimes just that raw power can get you to places, where it hits different. Like when you're breaking that 40 FPS barrier, which 40 is basically like my low end for where I enable frame gen from. And if I'm below 40, that's where I'm like, nah, I need to change settings. And okay, once I get a 4K monitor, I'll actually try to do a little bit more of this experimentation just to really clear the air. But yeah, that is a fair argument. Now, the 5070 Ti also has multi-frame gen, and it can overclock to almost the stock power of a 5080. Almost, not quite. So it can overclock pretty good too. And the stock power of a 5080 is pretty all right. It's still really good. It's still strong. It's weaker than 4090. And then from there, you can, multi-frame gen to higher than the 4090 can. Does that make it a better experience? No, it doesn't. But at the same time, the 5080, there is an argument to be made in those specific titles with frame gen. And so some people would consider this to beat the 4090. However, that's cool, guys. That's great. That is awesome. I love to see it. There is a place for it. It's got 16 gigs of VRAM. I know it might get tiring with me complaining about the 16 gigs of VRAM over and over and over and over and over. However, it's got 16 gigs of VRAM. And you know what FrameGen uses? It uses VRAM. No. And I know NVIDIA was talking about their VRAM compression. And that was going to be cool. Although I haven't heard anything about it. It was going to be like neural compression. It was going to be pretty cool. I didn't see much of that, but that'd be really nice. But now, once we reach 2028, like I was saying, and consoles have, I was reading there could be 48 gigs of system RAM in the new Xboxes. And I'm like, what? No, don't do that to us, please. I don't have to upgrade so soon. Well, I'm probably going to upgrade sooner because I'm a fiend. I'm an absolute animal. I don't have enough money to be doing this, but I do it anyway. I sell stuff. I get sad. I do that. But yeah. So that's the thing. Again, it always comes back to the fact that they chose out of their great wisdom and, bountiful grace to allow us to have the honor to give them $1,000 for 16 gigs of VRAM in 2025. And the best argument for it being a better card than the 4090, which it is nuanced. It does make sense. I can understand if somebody thinks that that's a better experience for them. And I honestly, in Cyberpunk, I think it would be. I don't have a 4K 240 hertz, but honestly, I think I might take that argument. But still, once we reach later, the 4090 with better VRAM will be able to hold up longer, or at least that's likely. And I guess it still stands to be seen. So I know it's very nuanced discussion. So take that with a grain of salt. Do with that what you will, and I would love to hear your thoughts about that particular topic. All right, moving on. Who is the 5080 made for? Well, I've seen places that's made for enthusiasts. Well, if you're a super techie enthusiast and you have a lot of money to throw around, a lot of people would just say go with the 5090. Well, that's the best of everything. That's got, the most power in the world. Well, unless you're going with the crazy things that don't even have game-ready drivers. Don't do that if you're trying to game with these things. If you're someone who likes tech and likes to buy powerful cards but is okay not getting the best of the best, probably should go with a 9070 XT or a 5070 Ti. Probably. The one thing I've seen, a lot of people are bringing up VR. I'm not actually versed on whether or not it's that much better than a 5070 Ti for VR, but a lot of people in my comments are saying that the 5080 is very, very good for VR and perhaps even better than a 4090. I'm not sure where that comes from. I'm not sure. But if true, cool. Get it. That's great. Do it. But honestly, it's in this weird gray area where it almost feels like there's not much base for it. Because you have to be both an enthusiast and somebody who has a lot of money to dish out, but not so much money to buy a 5090. Just enough money that you're okay spending it for this. And you have to be okay with the minimal power increase over the 5070 Ti. And you have to have some sort, you have to have some sort of reason to specifically get the 5080. And if that reason is multi-frame gen, so be it. I'm okay with that. A lot of people don't like the fake frames. But honestly, I'm okay with that. If that's what you're going for, that's what you're going for, and that's perfectly okay with me. So, just as a quick little aside, let's take a look at the prices that are currently available. So, this is PC Part Picker. Sorry, I've just spiked the microphone. I'm going to move that. And if we type in the 5080, go ahead and do that. We have this is low to high. And I swear that I was just seeing cards for $9.99 like 3 minutes before I started recording, and now it's $10.99 and I don't know why. They gained another $100 and I don't know why. So I wouldn't buy it for this. I wouldn't. I would wait for deals. But right here, you have the 16 gigabyte RTX 5080, right? And it goes up from $10.99. If you can get it for MSRP and it has the value that you want, it has those, you're a creator or you need it for VR and VR's, better on it, or you want to really fill out the frame cap on your, the hertz on your monitor, and you can find it for MSRP, that's okay. That's your prerogative, and I'm sure you'll find great enjoyment out of it. If you can find it for less than MSRP and you have some of those, great, get it. That's great. That's awesome. If you can find it for $800 to $850, $800 to $900, and you have, you're a creator, get it. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great for you. However, there's really a place in me where I really think that for a lot of people, you should either buy a 5070 Ti if you're okay with 16 gigs and you're not a creator, you don't really have a 4K 240 hertz monitor, and that's not really something you're terribly interested in, or even if you do, you don't necessarily want to fill it out. You just want the raw power for other titles. Like if you're playing a lot of Marvel Rivals, I'm pretty sure is better on a 4090. Double check me if that's wrong. Fact check me. But really, get a 5070 Ti if you don't fall into any of the categories that benefit most from a 5080 or a 9070 XT. Of course, you can get a 9070 XT or a 5070 Ti. Or wait for the supers. Honestly, you could wait for the supers. There is a side of me that would also like to say that there's always going to be another latest and greatest thing. And sometimes you just got to buy what you need now. Buy what you need now and not think too hard, right? Because sometimes we overthink things. Do what you have to, but at the same time, think about your use case. For me, it may not have been the best choice to get a 5080. For you, it might be an amazing choice. And that's why there's so much discussion around it. And while it is very disappointing of a generational leap, and it breaks the generational standard, and it fails in so many things, and it's greedy, and while there's all these issues, it still is a card that's powerful, works well, and does so much, and currently I need nothing better, even at 4K 240. So yeah, that was my follow-up video. There was a lot to talk about, and if I missed anything, let me know. I'm sure I did. There was a lot of comments to go around, a lot of things to cover, and if you have any more questions, if you hate my guts, let me know. I would love to see what your responses are, what you think, what your experiences have been. Would you benefit from a 5080? Do you hate the 5080? What do you want to see from the next generation? Do you want a 5090 and you think everybody should just buy that and screw the 5080 and all that? If that's what you think, if any of those are you, let me know. I would love to read it. There's a lot of really interesting stuff out there, and I would love to see it. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.